Welcome back to another episode of Is Fitz Happy? I'm Luke.
And I'm Emma.
And this week we are discussing part 2 of chapter 6, Obliteration. And we left off with Jinna having to stop Fitz during the middle of a reading and say like, hey, you have to wait outside. And then a lavishly dressed woman and her 2 daughters coming outside. And then Jinna being welcoming to Fitz.
Yes, and it was such a long wait that Fitz was worried that maybe she was mad and making him wait out there just because.
Right.
So he has been welcomed in at this point.
The warm and weary look she gave me dispelled me of the notion that leaving me standing outside was a sort of retribution. She wore a green robe, a wide yellow waist belt cinched her middle and lifted her breast. It was very becoming. Come in, come in. Oh, such a morning. It's strange. Folk want to know what you see in their hands, but so often they don't want to believe it.
And he comes in and they're back into the dimness of her home.
Yep. He apologizes for not showing up. My master had, duties for me. I've brought you some fresh spiced bread from the market. And she's like, oh, that's so lovely. Thank you so, so much. Oh, I see you also brought have nuts at the market. I wish I had known that you liked them, for my niece's tree has borne so heavily this year that we can scarcely decide what to do with them all.
Yes, so Fitz is sort of disappointed that he can't also gift her this.
He's like, oh man, that was such a bummer. Okay.
Yeah, well, okay, never mind.
Yep. No Fennel? I asked, wondering at the cat's absence. Fennel? She seemed surprised, I would ask. Oh, he's probably out and about on his business. You know how cats are. The room is a little bit warm and there's setting down some steaming cups of tea. She's trying to make it more welcoming, as she always does.
Yes, and there's also some butter open near where she has left down the bread, and she asks, are you hungry?
A bit, I admitted. Her smile was contagious. Her eyes moved over my face. I am too, she said. Then she stepped forward, and I found my arms around her, and her mouth rising up to mine. I had to stoop to kiss her. Her lips opened to mine, inviting, and she tasted of tea and spices. I felt suddenly dizzy. And she continues to welcome him in.
Yes, okay. We're about to talk about this scene. We've read a lot of scenes and talked about a lot of things that have been hard to talk about for a multitude of reasons. This is one of the most embarrassing scenes that I'm ever going to have to talk about on a podcast.
Which is so funny to me.
And I just need everyone to know going in that I'm feeling very embarrassed about talking about this because I have the maturity of a 12-year-old boy. So I'm sorry. I'm going to be awkward about it. At least it's not a hard topic to talk about, but it is. But it is going to be awkward, and I'm so sorry for any nervous giggles I give out.
Jinna, is the one who walked them sideways to her bedchamber, never breaking the kiss. She released me to shut the door firmly behind us, plunging us into near darkness, save for the bits of light that fingered their way in through the shakes of the roof and past the open rafters of a small loft. This isn't wise, I said. I could scarcely get the words out. No, it isn't. Her fingers loosened the laces of my shirt and tightened my desire. So they're undressing each other, and as she unbuckled her waist, her eyes followed my glance. She studied my face, smiling as Fitz is kind of looking around, and all of a sudden he's like feeling off. Yeah, and Jinna can tell that in his face. Yeah,
he sees a charm on her bed that is a string of red and black beads that was looped and wound around a framework of dead sticks. It was a dash of cold water, stilling my desire and infusing me with a sense of futility. As she unbuckled her waist, her eyes followed my glance. She studied my face, and smiling, she shook her head. Well, aren't you the sensitive one? Don't look at that one. It's for me, not you.
And she covers it with a shirt.
Yes. And then goes right back at it.
Right. Yeah.
This, spoiler alert, we're about to learn in a few paragraphs, but it is a sort of very specialized contraceptive. Yeah. It's especially tuned to Jinna to ensure that she doesn't get pregnant.
Yep.
Question on the ability to work if it's covered by a shirt. Like, is this like plan
Obviously, it's
B
fine.
where
Yeah.
it's like as long as you see it within 24 hours, you're fine, like, or 72 hours, whatever. I don't know. It's clearly fine. She wouldn't have done it if it wasn't, but it's just one of those things
Just
where,
an aura thing,
hey.
an aura buff.
But also this comes back to, on a more serious note, the magic that Jinna has and how Fitz seems in this moment overly sensitive to it. But also whenever she had the charm against predators, he was super sensitive to that one as well.
Right,
And
which makes very much sense. Like,
right, I mean, he was at the time.
Night Eyes literally left the cabin. He just backed up.
Yes. It does make me wonder if he saw it now, if he would have the same response because he is no longer bonded to a predator.
Might make him uneasy, but maybe not the same response. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious about that aspect of it. But I also, it makes me wonder, sort of in the same vein of, there are people who don't hear the dragons. There are people who are not affected by skill in any capacity. Are there then those same exact people or different people who are not affected by hedge magic at all?
Right. Yeah.
And Fitz being overly sensitive, is that because he has a depth of magic ability in other magics? Is that like comparative? Is this just like he just won the genetic lottery of being sensitive to everything?
Right.
I don't know, but it is something that makes me think about sort of how that magic fits into this world and how it works on other characters, not just Fitz.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Fitz does say that was his one moment of clarity before he's plunged right back into the deed.
Mm-hmm. And for a time, they're just kind of cuddling. And she asked what had given him the fresh scratches on his neck and belly. And he silences her mouth with his and recalls picking her up and turning her to set her on the bed instead.
Sorry, where did you get that they cuddled for a time?
For a time, we stood, nuzzling one another. She made some approving comment about the charm that she made for me. It was all I currently wore.
Oh, I didn't take that as like cuddling. I thought that was like making out.
Yeah, probably.
Because I'm like, oh, that feels like not the right vibe. But
I mean, nuzzling usually isn't, right? Because also she's speaking to him.
well, but isn't nuzzling like, I don't know. We don't need to get into first, second, third base in here. That's not what this podcast is about.
That's fair. That's fair. Whatever you imagine. So in one short paragraph later, she and Fitz are laying on the bed and she says, "Well, you're a hasty man, Tom Badgerlock."
I held nothing back and I thought I carried her with me. Then as I lay dizzied with completion, she said in a small voice, "Well, you're a hasty man, Tom Badgerlock." Shame drenched me.
Yeah, shame. My hoarse breathing as I lay atop her made a hideous silence of its own. Shame drenched me. After a terrible stillness, I heard her draw breath. You were hungry. Perhaps she regretted her words of disappointment, but that did not call them back. So now Fitz is like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. And you along with them, right?
Yeah. Super embarrassing. I can't believe this happened. Not that I need to know about Fitz's bedroom prowess, but like, oh boy, is this a picture to paint? Because honestly, this is the only time we don't fade to black during a bedroom encounter. So like,
not the only time. We have Althea and Brashen as well.
With Fitz, sorry.
Oh, with Fitz, yeah.
From Fitz, this is the only non-fade to black bedroom encounter we get.
Yeah.
And every other time he's talking about how great it is. And now I'm just wondering if any of his partners would agree with that. And if maybe Starling wasn't being so harsh when she said it was charity work, Like, it just something to ponder as I'm reading with my face fully red of this whole situation of like, oh, poor Fitz and oh, poor Jinna. Like,
well, Jinna's gentle attempt at making light of it brought the blood to my face and completed my humiliation. I dropped my forehead to the pillow beside hers. So he's just kind of like now tuned out. He's like, oh gosh, now nothing's happening. I'm just sitting here in silence.
Kind of hoping that he disintegrates
Yeah.
right here and never has to
Yep.
think about this ever again. But Jinna doesn't let this be the end. She sort of
No. And I feel like, so I don't have the visceral reaction that you're having to this, but I feel like this next line is so cringy. I don't know why, but like, it's just, she says, Tom, the first time is seldom the best. You've shown me your boy's passion. Shall we find your man's skills now? That's so, maybe it's because of the boy's passion. I don't know. It's just weird to me. That's a weird line.
Listen, I love Robin Hobb's writing. I think there's a reason she doesn't do spicy romance, you know, like, and I don't like it. And maybe it's like, because I knew I would have to talk
the
about it on
romance is
podcast.
there, but like the spice.
Spice level 0. No, it's very realistic, I guess. This is a real situation that happens to people all the time. It just is like, to me, too much secondhand embarrassment personally. And normally, you know, I would eat that up, but like something about this is just like a step too far for me. But you know what? He decides to take her up on her offer for a round 2, and
gratefully is able to rekindle both of them, and says there were several things Starling had taught me that Jinna seemed pleased with my second performance.
Which also, again, ew. And Fitz, just because one lady likes something does not mean the next will. So.
But then at the end, Jinna says, so Badgerlock, and then drew breath beneath me. That is what is like for a she-wolf.
Yeah. Before we get to that, sorry, I just want to point out that in this moment of intimacy, when he is with Jinna, he is thinking about Starling and his moments with Starling, which is valid. He has had more time with her over the years, more recently, but
He's thinking of skills that he can bring.
Yes, but I bring that up because, again, I think it's interesting that his mind isn't on Molly at all in this moment of intimacy.
Yeah.
It does later come up, but specifically during the deed, in this moment of like showing off, so to speak, his mind goes to Starling. And I think that's something worth noting.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, then once again, Jinna has an awkward comment, but it does sort of ruin whatever peacefulness was coming to Fitz by bringing up this being what a she-wolf
It's a
gets
very
to have.
weird comment.
Yeah.
And it's, so Fitz says like, he's incredulous. She blinked up at me, an odd smile on her face. I've never been with a witted one before this, she confided. I've heard other women speak of it, that such men are more... She paused, seeking for a word. Animal, I suggested. The word, as I spoke it, was an insult. Her eyes widened, and then she laughed uncomfortably. That isn't what I was going to say, Tom. You shouldn't take insults to yourself where a compliment is intended. Untamed was what I was going to say. Natural, as an animal is natural, with no thought of what any other may think of his ways. And it's not a compliment, Jinna.
No.
Like, how she was phrasing it, how she was going to say that doesn't need to be spoken. That is like, it's incredibly insulting because you're insinuating the reason that he's being persecuted is some like trophy to claim.
Yeah. It's not a great look. It's not great pillow talk. It's not like he really asked for feedback, nor would he clearly want any after how embarrassed he got after round 1.
Right.
So then to like go in and talk about how it's different because he's more animal and doesn't care what people think of his ways is so odd, because realistically, would it be that different than anybody else? You know, like...
And look, like, I'm not saying that she had bad intentions. She obviously meant it as a compliment, but like, it's not.
No, it's giving, I have black friends, it's okay, I can say it. Like, no. No.
Fitz can't say any more than, oh. I wondered abruptly what I was to her, a novelty, a forbidden indulgence with something not quite fully human. It was unnerving to wonder if she saw me as bestial and strange. Did our magic set us so far apart in her mind? And yeah, there's like, we'll talk about the influence that magic is having at this moment in just a little bit, but like, those immediate thoughts are brought on by her comments. Like, it's
Yes.
not the magic.
Yeah, I think something that I have an issue with Jinna's character, and I think not because of how it's written or like Hobb did a bad job, but in general, something that I have a problem with Jinna is that she doesn't feel like she actually cares about Fitz. She feels like she is lusting after Fitz, which isn't a crime. Like, he's clearly a hottie, but I think it just reads through every interaction that they have, this like underlying lust. And it's not even necessarily lust just on who Fitz is, but like what he is too. And I think I haven't really brought it up until now because I haven't been able to really put my finger on what it is that bothers me. But I think this chapter really helped me understand it's like Fitz says, it's like he's a novelty or some like trophy to collect. And
She's like skirting danger, but
yeah,
not like in danger herself. And when he shows himself to be a dangerous man, she cuts ties.
yes. And it's so interesting because it is so surface level. And like, I don't know, there's nothing wrong with having relations with a person just because, like, whoever you
Yeah.
want. They're both consenting adults. It just is this underlying feeling of like,
It's because we get
I don't know.
to peek into these intimate moments and hear
Yeah.
his internal reactions to her thoughts and be in a position to judge these characters because it's a book.
Right.
That's why we get to judge this. If Jinna was a real person, this was happening, like, yeah, some of those comments could be weird, but like, we're not in a place to judge her. But as a
Right.
character in a book, like, that's not great.
It's not, yeah. And I think obviously part of the read of Jinna is always going to be colored by the fact that we are looking at her through Fitz's distorted lens, right? Fitz, historically bad at reading women, especially. And also understanding the tone in which people are trying to convey things to him. He does take things very personally. He doesn't react well to things that are sensitive spots to him.
Yeah.
That's fine. And we do have to take that into consideration when reading these
Definitely.
interactions. However, this is one of those areas where I kind of feel like it doesn't matter what lens we're looking at it through. It isn't coming off good from Jinna's point. I don't think there's a world in which I believe, even from somebody else's point of view, that Jinna is interested in Fitz in more than a surface way, like a surface level way.
Which is, again, fine.
Not a crime.
Yeah.
Not a crime. However, because we love Fitz so much and because this obviously is something that means more to him, it is harder of a read, right? And with this sort of weird conversation, it does start Fitz down this spiral. And it, like, as he's thinking about what Jinna thinks of him, she sort of realizes that what he's doing and says, stop thinking. And so he does, he says, but he doesn't really, because then he goes on to think about how this was horrible.
Yeah, afterwards, she dozes for a bit. And while she's
Yes,
dozing, he is thinking about these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Neither of us had spoken of love. I had realized it had been a performance. It had simply been a thing we had done together, something that felt good, something I was reasonably competent at. Yet if our first coupling had left her unsatisfied, the later ones left me feeling incomplete in a deeper way. With a sharpness I had not felt in years, I suddenly longed for Molly, and how simple, good, and true it had been between us. This was not that, any more than my partnering with Starling had been. It wasn't even sharing a bed. At the heart of my discontent, I wanted to be in love with someone the way I had been that first time. I wanted someone I could touch and be held by, someone who made everything else in the world more significant simply by her existence. This morning, Ketchikan had touched me as a friend, and that had held more meaning and even more true passion than this had. I suddenly wanted to be gone from here, for none of this to have ever happened. Jinna and I had been on the path to becoming friends. I was just beginning to know her. What had I done to that? So there's a little bit more to that spiral, but those are some of the important words at the beginning there.
Yeah. And again, so as I said before, during the act, he was thinking of Starling and how she taught him moves. But now, after when he's thinking of companionship and like a deeper relationship, he thinks of Molly. And I wonder if this is just sort of a sentiment that he didn't give to Girl on Dragon. This is my own little personal tinfoil hat theory. Like, he gave so much of his time with Molly to the dragon. I'm wondering if that feeling of simplicity and happiness he kept.
Yeah,
and so
could
in this
be.
absence of it is what brings it to the forefront.
Yeah.
But also you can tell how much having most of the Molly relationship taken away has hindered his growth, because this is such a childlike view of relationships and what it means to sleep with someone.
Right.
And just like putting that importance of like, when it was with Molly, it was simple and true and pure, when we know it wasn't necessarily that at the time either. I mean, there was definitely love and passion there, definitely. But as an adult, looking back on those memories, you should also be able to understand that the reason there was purity there is the naivety of youth and not knowing sort of the consequences of actions, I guess, and sort of having to live with what
Right.
happens next. I think there was no growth from that initial, because he cut off the feelings that would give him the growth, if that makes sense.
I think it's also important to bring up that he's longing for not just specifically Molly, but for
Yeah.
that feeling of both of them loving one another. And that was missing with Starling, and it's missing with Jinna, because, as we mentioned before, these are both relatively surface level
Yeah.
situationships,
Yes.
I guess. And he wants that deeper connection.
Yeah.
And then he brings in Kettricken, like, oh, I
Right.
have a true friend with Kettricken, and we
And-
had healing kisses there.
And I also want to point out that, like, he says that he wants this love, and I don't think that's a surprise. I think this is something that is a sentiment that has been echoed before now and will be echoed after.
Right.
But he seems to think that the only way he's getting that is if he gets with Molly again. And if there is a way for them to be together, that's the only way he'll ever get a mutual love where the person loves him the way that he loves them.
Right.
But
Yeah.
we see that even when he does end up with Molly, that's not really how their relationship plays out. Right? I mean, they definitely love each other, but there's still Fitz holding back parts of himself so that Molly can be comfortable in their relationship.
True.
And so in this moment, his deep desire of, I wanted to be in love with someone the way I had been that first time, like, and he wants that love returned to him. He doesn't ever give himself the opportunity to have that. And also, how does he expect to find that when he is constantly putting himself in isolation and not going after anyone? Crazy.
But as he echoes here that Jinna and I had been on the path to becoming friends, it feels like he thinks this is all premature. Like, oh, if we had become better friends first, like maybe it would be better.
Right.
But again, he's, as you mentioned at the beginning of this, he's kind of on a spiral here. You know, if Jinna wanted to carry on with him, how would I manage this with Hap also staying at Jinna's place? Openly flouting yet again all the rules I had taught Hap for how a man should conduct his life, or in secret hiding it from Hap, furtively coming and going from Jinna's bed. I was deathly tired of secrets. They seemed to spawn all around me, to fasten me and suck the life from me like cold leeches. I hungered for something real and true and open. Could I change my relationship with Jinna to that? I doubted it. Not only was there no foundation of deep and honest love between us, but once again I was enmeshed in the secret business of the Farseer intrigues. There would be secrets I must keep from her, secrets that would eventually endanger her. So that also in that paragraph echoes kind of what you were saying, how not only was there no foundation of deep and honest love between us,
Yeah.
but once again I was enmeshed in the secret business. So it's that kind of longing for, I was raised up alongside Molly and became friends when we were literal children and had no concept of love. So we obviously loved each other as soon as we could have feelings for that.
Yeah.
And so we were in love when we had sex the first time. And that does not happen as adults usually.
Not all the time.
You don't see.
Some people do, but
you
not.
don't have love at first sight usually, I
Yeah.
guess. And that's not going to happen, especially with Fitz. You work at it, you have a relationship, you
Yeah.
establish rapport and deepen that relationship.
Well,
And again, as you were saying before, since Fitz locked away a lot of that, he can't develop beyond that first understanding he had with Molly.
right. And there is something really idealistic to the idea that him and Molly had a relationship that was pure and no holding back, and just like they loved each other in a deep way, which they did for being children.
And at the same time, he's also deathly like sick of his secrets that he had
Yes.
to keep from Molly too.
Yeah. And I think that's like also a really interesting part to put into this, that like he does have so many secrets and he is so secretive, and he never did truly open up all the way to Molly. He did tell her some secrets, but all of them she had to find out on her own first and confront him with. And then he would explain the secret and be like, you gotta believe me, this is the last secret, even though it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's interesting then to like be like, oh, it's also because I'm keeping secrets for the Farseers. And I do want to point out that there is somebody who fits the criteria of what he's looking for, and I would argue that it's Beloved. Because Beloved knows every aspect of Fitz and loves him
Yeah.
for who he is truly. And ultimately, that acceptance does...
Can say that about Ketrican too.
Does Ketrican know everything
I think so.
the same way?
Pretty much everything. Maybe not as much as the Fool, but
Okay. I guess she knows he's witted and that he's the Farseer bastard and that he faked his own death.
and he
The
was an
important stuff.
assassin. And
Yeah. Yeah, I guess she does know she's an... Okay, so yeah.
literally
Ketrican
when
knows.
they met, he
That's true.
Regal
You're
told
right, you're
them
right, you're right.
that Fitz would become
But,
an
like,
assassin.
But I will argue that Ketrican doesn't know the nitty gritty of everything the way that Beloved does.
That's true.
But with both of those examples, he still turns away from that love
Yeah.
and can't accept that as the right kind of love either. And so it
Mhm.
just sort of feels like it's a losing battle for Fitz, because nothing will ever be right. There will always be some reason why he
True.
doesn't deserve the love.
Well, Jinna stirs awake either from, Fitz's deep sigh or just
He's definitely over there going,
yeah.
being really dramatic. And she's like, all right.
She says, "Don't be troubled, Tom. It wasn't all your fault. I had guessed there might be a problem when the charm by the bed near unmanned you, and now your spirits grow bleak and grim, do they not?" I shrugged one shoulder. She sat up and lifts the shirt off the charm, basically, and shows it to him and says, "This is a contraceptive. It's a woman's charm. It's for me, but only a hedge witch can make one for herself because you have to know the woman from the skin out, basically."
Yes.
So nice little perk of being a hedge witch there.
Mm-hmm.
"This one is mine, tuned to me. It's a charm against conception. I should have guessed that it might affect you. Any man who wants children so desperately that he takes in a foundling to raise on his own has that longing down to his bones. You may deny it, but that little hope burns in you each time you lie with a woman. I suspect it is what must drive your passion, Tom. And this little charm took that idle dream away from you before you could even wish it. It told you our joining would be futile and barren. That's what you feel now, isn't it?" Having something explained to you does not always solve it. I looked aside from her. "Isn't it?" I asked, and then winced at the bitterness in my voice. "Poor boy," she said sympathetically. She kissed me on the forehead where Ketrican had kissed me earlier. "Of course not. It's what we make of it."
Okay, again, the whole like wording of poor boy. She's younger than him, first of all. But second of all, I think that's part of this attitude that I really don't like. It's like he's a creature, he's a pet that she's like, I don't know,
So
giving
is
the time.
this
of.
chapter kind of turning you away from liking Jinna then?
A little bit.
Or is
No.
it just kind of like a section of her that just feels a little weird?
I don't like this aspect of Jinna.
Yeah.
I will say I don't love her relationship with Fitz in this capacity. I like Jinna as a character outside of this, and I
Right.
recognize that this is not all of who she is, but I don't love the way that it's making her seem.
That's fair. Yeah.
I don't know. And I think it hurts more because I do like Jinna, and I do think she is interesting. And we have talked about how she's kind of the only normal person, but I would argue that this shows that she's not all that normal either. So
Well, Fitz continues on saying, well, I'm in no position to be a father to anyone. I didn't even come to see Hap last night when he told me it was important. I've no wish to start another life that I cannot protect. So he's kind of saying, like, I don't want to be a father. I'm not good at being a father now.
Which is low-key crazy because we know that he does
Yes.
want to be a father, and he does feel bad that he's missed out on his daughter's upbringing. He looks in on her all the time. And I mean, I think in a way, Jinna is right. Like, he wouldn't have taken in Hap and raised him if he didn't have any paternal instincts.
Right.
Didn't want to be a dad. But I also feel like it's very Fitz of him to like be like, well, I don't want to be a dad anyway. Okay, King, we didn't ask. But
Jinna says that what the heart longs for and what the mind knows are two different things. Remember, I've seen your palms. Perhaps I know more of your heart than you do yourself. You said my true love would come back to me. Again, despite myself, my words sounded accusing. No, Tom, that I did not. Well, do I know that what I say to a person is seldom what that person hears, but I'll tell you again what I saw. It's here. There is a love that twines in and out of your days. Sometimes it leaves, but when it does, it runs alongside you until it returns. She lifted my hand closer to her face, studying it. She kissed my palm. But that doesn't mean that you must be alone and idle while you wait for it to come back, she suggested in a whisper. And then Fennel saves Fitz from answering.
Yes, because he drops a live rat on the bed. But I do want to point out that a true love, or there is a love that twines in and out of Fitz's days. Sometimes it leaves, but when it does, it runs alongside him until it returns.
It's quite obviously beloved.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
exactly.
We've talked about that before in the first chapter of Fool's Errand.
Mm-hmm. But I think this, once again, like just pointing out, I do think, and I'm not trying to push beloved and Fitz ship. I don't think that they necessarily have to be like a romantic love for this to count. I just think that there's something about them that is so intrinsically intertwined. Like,
100%.
It is love, and whatever type of love that is, it is a love, and it is the one that follows Fitz. And he does keep coming back. And that's the thing, is that Molly disappears for a little bit, but her life isn't running parallel to Fitz's. She's living her own life.
Right, yeah.
She's not thinking about Fitz. I mean, any more than you would somebody you thought was dead and you would mourn, but not like the way that I think Beloved is always thinking of Fitz, and sort of, I don't know, the way that their fates are intertwined. I just think that's more of what it is. But this is kind of all Fitz needs to think, Molly and I are definitely getting back together. She's the one true love. Okay.
Fennel, as you mentioned, brings a live rat that's squirming in his mouth and says, want a rat? It's still got a lot of play in it. No, just kill it. I felt the red spark of the rat's agony. It had no hope of living, but the life in it would not surrender easily. Fennel ignored my refusal. He launched from the edge of the loft, dropped down to the land beside us on the bed, where he released his prey. Jinna obviously exclaims in disgust and leaps up from the bed, but Fitz snatches up the rat. A pinch and a twist ended its torment. You're fast, Fennel approved. Here, take it away. I offered him the dead rat. He sniffed the dead body. You broke it. Take it away. I don't want it. It's no fun anymore. He growled low at me and then leapt from the bed. You ended it too fast. You just don't know how to play. And then he immediately goes to the door demanding to go out, which Jinna lets him out.
Yeah. Low-key really funny, really on the nose, if you would, about Fitz ending things too fast and not knowing how to play. Right after his little mistake number one, if you will. Was that intended? Maybe not. I don't know. But I think it's interesting to see that Fennel talks about a rat as though it's a toy, and then also says that it's broken instead of dead.
Yeah.
Like, that's odd to me, because you would think it...
You broke the toy. There's no play in it left.
Yeah, and like, I know he's a cat, but...
Hey, we talk about how cats and dragons are very similar, and they see anything below them as basically insignificant.
True. I guess. It's just, I don't know. It was I'm like, that's such a weird phrasing. Like, surely cats know of death, and like, that creatures die and that is
Oh, sure.
a being, but whatever, I guess.
Well, Fitz throws the rat out. They get cleaned up and dressed and go back out to have some tea. And somehow the tea has gotten cold, Jinna says. I avoided looking at the charm as I put my shirt on. When I came out, I ignored my own desire to leave and sat down at the table. So Jinna is chatting of the 3 women that came in and had a reading before. They're having some bread and butter, hot tea, just kind of chilling. And Fitz is letting the conversation just kind of go past him at the moment.
Right. I do want to quick ask about the women that she was seeing. Do we think that they are important nobles to the story or just random nobles?
No idea. So Jinna says that she had read the younger daughter's hands to see if an offer of marriage boded well for her. Then she had advised her to wait. So obviously, the young daughter came out crying because she wanted to get married to somebody.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they're nobles. Obviously, they were dressed well.
Yeah.
But that could be merchants, like
That's true.
well-to-do merchants or something too.
Yeah. I don't know.
No idea.
But I was wondering because the older woman looks at Fitz with disdain. And at first I was thinking, well, he's like a surly man standing outside of a witch's hut. However,
In serving the servant man blues or whatever,
yes.
you know.
However, I was wondering if maybe this is somebody that is currently up at the keep and knows that this is Lord Golden's man.
Maybe.
And knows the rumors about him, and or this person was talking about hoping to marry Lord Golden and got told no. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
There's a couple different ways to read it. I don't know that any of them are necessarily important, but I thought that it'd be fun to talk about them.
Could be, yeah. Fennel jumps up to Fitz's lap and says, "Butter for the cat." "I have no reason to be nice to you." "Yes, you do. I am the cat." And so Fitz puts some butter on a piece of toast and brings it over to Fennel. Fennel licks it off the toast and says more. No. And then he tunes into what Jinna is saying as she says, "Or Hap may find himself in the same sort of fix." And then he focuses. He's like, "What?"
I was like, wait. Ooh. And this is Fitz's worst habit. He is not paying attention. He never pays attention when he's being talked to, especially if there's an animal around. But especially with Jinna, it seems like more than once he is focused more on what Fennel is doing and saying than the human conversation happening in front of him, which is kind of odd to me, but whatever, not my life. But he is sort of taken aback going, wait, what? And he doesn't want to admit he wasn't listening. So he says, "Well, I intend to speak with him today," and hoped that comment made some sort of sense.
She says you should. Even if you had come back by last night, he wouldn't have been there. You would have to wait up because he comes in late every single night and leaves late for his work every morning. So what do you suggest? She took a breath and sighed it out, a bit annoyed. I probably deserved it. What I just said. Go to the shop and speak with his master. Ask for some time with Hap. Corner him and set down some rules for him. Say that if he doesn't keep them, you'll insist that he board with his master like the other apprentices do. That would give him the chance to govern himself or be governed. Or if he moves into the apprentices' quarters there, he'll find that one evening off twice a month is all he'll get to himself. And so Fitz is amazed. You're like, "Oh, other apprentices live with Master Gindast?" And Jinna's like, "Yeah. What don't you know about apprenticeships?" And Fitz is like, "Well, I guess that makes sense, but I never finished mine." He's kind of lying because he technically lived in with Chade and Burek.
But he can't exactly explain why that wouldn't
have
crossed his mind as why. But I guess, I mean, yes, he lived with Burek, but the stable hands didn't all live with Burek. Yeah. I mean, they probably lived in Buckkeep,
or the town at least, but
I feel like they had to have all lived on property.
Probably.
Servants' quarters or whatever.
Yeah, so he says that I was never formally apprenticed. All of this is new. I had assumed I had to provide Hap's room and board while he was taught, which is why I brought this with me, and brings out the pouch of coins that Ketcherkin had given him as well. And then he feels really awkward because it's silent, and she's like, "I haven't even touched hardly any of the first purse that you sent me."
Yes, and he's like,
Chade has sent.
Yeah, obviously Chade would have sent coins, but also it's super awkward because he's like, "Oh no, what if she takes this as me paying for what happened earlier?"
Right,
and oh, this is so awkward. And she's awkward about it too. So it's not necessarily in his head.
How much do you think it costs to feed a boy? Another town thing that I don't know. And he says, like, we raised everything that we know. I just don't know anything about this.
Yeah. And I do want to point out, I feel like usually Fitz is really good at knowing when he has blown his cover, but this is very much blowing his cover as poor working man Tom, because if he was never fully apprenticed and he was just some guy who lived out in the middle of nowhere, how does he have so much money?
Well, because he is, one, Lord Golden is rich, right? And Jinna knows that because he bought a bunch of charms from her.
That's true.
Two, he's a man at arms, right? Like, she knows that he was a soldier before.
I guess.
So, like, I think that's...
But, like, what class of person was becoming a soldier during the war? Like, was anybody allowed to train to become a soldier? Or was it, like, a certain class of citizen that was becoming a soldier? Because I feel like being a man-at-arms is, like, for a higher class citizen than just your average person.
I would think they would have, like, enlistments, you know?
That's fair. I mean, there was a war happening.
Yeah, it was a war. So I feel like it wouldn't be just... They wouldn't just send their well-educated, well-to-do people off to war. They would train anybody, I feel like.
But he could be like the second son of a wealthy noble, you know?
She says, well, you know, I'll tell you when I need more, but the use of the pony and the cart has meant a great deal to us anyways. Like, that saves us a lot of money, so it's fine. You're more than welcome to that. As Hap told you, it is much better for Clover to move about than to be stabled constantly. Oh, feed for the pony. And Jinna waves him off again, like, no, it's easy to come by. I don't need your money that badly. Like, you gave us some already.
It'll be fine.
Yep, we'll be good. Then you'll see Hap today. Of course, it's why I came to town today. I began to stack the coins, preparatory to returning them to my pouch. It felt awkward. I see. So that was why you came by here, she observed, but she smiled teasingly as she said it. Well, then, I'll let you be on your way. It had suddenly dawned on me that she was letting me know it was time for me to leave. Well, thank you for the tea, I said, and then halted. She laughed aloud at me, and my cheeks burned, but I managed to smile. Well, I had best go to see Hap. You do that, and then somebody else knocks as another customer comes for Jinna.
Yes.
So they have slightly awkward, but in Jinna's eyes, a nice encounter.
Yeah. I mean, he gets the hint to leave and goes. So, there's that.
She's got work to do. You know?
Yeah. Also, I feel like it's kind of Fitz being oblivious to be like, yeah, the only reason I came to town was to see Hap. After that whole encounter, there wasn't even a and you as well, because he did also come to see Jinna.
Right, yeah.
But
I mean, he obviously he bought her a gift to apologize and stuff. So, like, Jinna also knows that it's not just to see Hap.
Yeah. But it is really funny that he tried to play it off as like, oh, I just only came here for that.
Yep.
Fitz.
Just a little flirting, you know?
Was it flirty?
Jinna took it that way.
I guess. And that's what matters.
So he goes off to Gindast's shop, but Gindast is not in. He's seeing some other clients. So one of the senior journeymen who is there kind of met him, brings him in, and says, like, yeah, you better go see Hap. But also, you better come back and arrange a meeting to speak with Gindast about Hap, because you just need to do that. And Fitz says he made it seem ominous.
Yes, which Fitz should know by now. Like, things are not good. And he keeps saying, like, not my perfect boy. He would never, which is what parents do. I feel like sometimes where, like, a teacher's like, hey, your kid's really bad in class. My precious bundle of joy, they would never do that. Yeah, they would. I'm with them every day. They would. And yeah, on Fitz's way to Gindast, I do want to quick pull a line, because Fitz is thinking about how, with how cold the weather is getting, this time last year, he was thinking about how to prepare for the winter and what to do next. And Nida's was there and Hap was part of that. And that now I no longer had to consider my own well-being, only that of the rain. The harness still sat uncomfortably on my shoulders because the Farseer throne provided for Fitz.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting thing to touch on because he very clearly, like, he's thinking of it in terms of he doesn't have to be responsible for things in some ways, and especially himself and what happens to himself. And I feel like that's an excuse he gives himself to put off not taking care of himself or not caring about how he actually feels and doing the little check-ins.
That's
Because
fair. Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, I'm just a farseer now, so whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me sad that he
Yeah,
feels that way.
He views it as a yoke instead of I'm free. I could prepare my own food for the winter and do my own chores and things. It's not a blessing that they take that off his table. It's a removal of his freedoms to do that.
Yes.
He's at Gindast's and he sees Hap with 4 other apprentices turning wood as it's drying. So it gets dry on all sides. And he observes Hap for a while and notices that he's very upset and sulky and saw suppressed anger in the way that Hap was handling himself. His impatience at working with lads younger and weaker than he was. And eventually Hap does notice Fitz.
Yeah. I watched him for a time before he is aware of me, and what I saw troubled me, is what he says. But
yep.
I didn't much care for the disdain he expressed towards his current task. Hap, I greeted him gravely, and Tom, he responded. He clasped the wrist with me and then said in a low voice, "You see now what I was talking about?" "I see you turning wood so it dries well," I responded. "That seems a necessary task for a woodworker's shop." He sighed. "I would not mind it so much if it were an occasional thing, but every task they put me to demands a lot of my back and a little of my brain." "And are the other apprentices treated differently?" "No," he replied begrudgingly, "but as you can see, they are just boys." "Makes no difference, Hap," I told him. "It's not a matter of age, but of knowledge. Be patient. There is something to learn here, even if it's only how to stack the wood properly, and what you learn from seeing it at this stage. Besides, it's a thing that must be done. Who else should they put to doing it?" And then he's kind of sulking about that. Hap is sulking about that response.
Silent but unconvinced, yes. Fitz says.
So this approach here that Fitz is taking is sort of trying to mollify Hap, right? He's trying to talk sense into this senseless thing he's seeing.
You don't need to be angry at this because it's something that everyone goes through.
Yeah.
You need to learn this, obviously. And yes, you can do it easily. Great. Have a better attitude and you will get moved up to better things faster.
Yeah. And interestingly to me, and maybe this is just who I am as an older sister, when I was lecturing my little siblings for things that they were complaining similar to Hap, he doesn't point out the flaw of, you don't show up to work on time ever. You are very clearly grumpy at your job and you don't want to be here. Why would they give you more tasks? Why you don't act like you want to be here? Why would they give you harder things to do?
True.
If this is all it takes to get you not to like it, maybe you shouldn't do it. But Fitz doesn't take that approach. He tries the silver lining, and then Hap is sort of grumbling and not really responding. And so Fitz says, "Would it be better if you lived here like the other apprentices?"
Like Jinna said, and
like,
Hap is so outraged. He's like, "No, why would you even say such a thing?"
And again, I have problem with the way Fitz is handling this, because Jinna had the great idea of pose it as, hey, if you don't get your act together, you will live here.
Right.
Not,
yeah.
What do you think? Do you want to live here? No, obviously not. And he's not making good decisions by not. But he's upset because he explains that he's talked with the other boys and living here is awful.
Right.
They have to do all their own chores and they have to wash their sheets all the time and their own clothes. And
amount of candles that are used every night.
Yeah, and they have to do chores after everybody else leaves. And it's horrible. It's just extra work for nothing. And it's horrible, horrible, horrible.
And Fitz is saying, it does not sound so terrible to me. It sounds disciplined. Rather like what a man at arms goes through in his training. It wouldn't hurt you, Hap. He flung his arms wide in an angry gesture. It wouldn't help me either. If I had wanted to break heads for a living, then yes, I'd expect to be trained like a dumb animal, but I didn't expect my apprenticeship to be like this. Then you've decided that this isn't what you want? I asked, and near held my breath awaiting the answer. For if he had changed his mind, I had no idea what I would do with him. I could not have him up at Buckkeep with me or send him back to the cabin alone. His answer came grudgingly. No, I haven't changed my mind. This is what I want. But they had better start actually teaching me something soon, or... I waited for him to say, or what, but his words ran out. He too had no idea what he would do if he left Gindast. I decided to take that as a positive sign. I'm glad this is still what you want. Try to be humble, to be patient, to work well and listen and learn. I think that if you do so and show yourself a sharp lad, you will soon progress to more challenging tasks. And I'll try to meet you tonight, but I dare not make any promises. Lord Golden keeps me very busy, and it's been hard for me to get this much free time. Do you know where the Three Sails Tavern is? Yes, but don't meet me there. Come to the Stuck Pig instead. It's very near Jinna's.
So, yeah, obviously Hap doesn't want to lose the freedom he has.
Yeah, and Fitz is, as you mentioned, taking more of an encouraging, like, hey, you just got to buckle down, do the work, and they'll see that effort in you and move you up fast.
Yeah, and this would have worked for old Hap. In fact, old Hap wouldn't have even needed this pep talk to begin with. He would have done the work and worked hard. But for some reason, being in town has made Hap like too high and mighty.
I think if he lived with the apprentices to begin with, he would have gotten used to that life right away. But having no Tom there and being able to just go to a tavern and see a pretty girl, that kind of...
That's fair. I think, that is...
taste of freedom,
That is probably... And I don't know. It's hard because obviously situation being what it was, Fitz couldn't be there for him. And Fitz didn't know what he was doing. He sort of was blindly going into all of this. I'm not necessarily blaming Fitz as being the sole problem with all of this, but he didn't help any of it. And he's not necessarily making great choices leading up to the blow-ups that are going to happen later to sort of prevent them from happening. He's taking a very passive role. And I get that we've talked before about how that sort of probably stems from him not wanting to be treat Hap the way he was treated as a kid, where people were forcing him to do stuff that he didn't want to do. Yeah. But also, as an adult and a parent, sometimes you got to force your kid to do things they don't want to do.
Right.
And it's just for the greater good. Not all the time. There are definitely times when you can give them leeway. Mm-hmm. But then also I was thinking about how this is very Fitz of Hap to want to sneak away and to feel like he's not given the right kind of work, because I feel like Fitz at this age was also feeling similarly whenever he was doing different things or being given different tasks, whether that was in the stable or learning how to fight or whatever he was doing. He was always trying to sneak away and get down to town. So maybe it is just Hap being Fitz's kid.
So Hap says, come to the Stuck Pig. It's very near Jinna's. And I pressed, knowing there was another reason. And you can meet Svanja, too. She lives nearby and watches for me. If she can, she joins me there. If she can sneak away from her house. Well, somewhat. Her mother doesn't much mind, but her father hates me. Not the best start for a courtship, Hap. What have you done to deserve his hatred? Kissed his daughter? Hap grinned a devil-may-care grin, and I smiled in spite of myself. Well, that is a thing we will discuss this evening as well. And says, basically, I think you're young to start it. Wait until you're a little bit more established here, so you have prospects as either senior apprentice or a journeyman of your own, that sort of thing. And then maybe her father will be more willing and happy with that. And if I can get free tonight, I will meet you there, he says.
Right. And Hap sort of doesn't care about what Fitz is saying about the whole, hey, maybe wait. And it is kind of funny for him to be like, oh, Hap, you're kind of young, as Dutiful is engaged at the same age.
Right.
Engaged to be married.
Different standards for a prince.
True. It's a different life.
Yep. So Fitz says that Hap seems somewhat mollified as he turns back to his work, but Fitz walks away feeling discontented with that and a heavier heart than he had come. Jinna was right. Town life was changing my boy, and in ways I had not foreseen. I did not feel that he truly listened to my counsel, let alone that he would act on it. Well, perhaps tonight I could take a firmer line with him.
And then he goes back.
Yep.
And as he's going back, he is once again sort of taking time to look behind him, make sure he's not being tailed, see if the
Yes.
piebalds are following him, but they really aren't. And it's kind of concerning to him because why would they show themselves and then disappear?
Yeah.
And we did talk about last episode sort of the idea that it's potentially because we have
Lodwine
Lodwine,
traveling to Buckkeep town.
yeah, to take care of it himself.
Yeah. And so they're kind of
Waiting.
being held in check by their
Yes.
leader. And I'm sure he's traveling fairly slowly because, as far as we heard from Laurel last episode, is that he was still languishing and recovering and it was not doing very well.
Yes. And yeah, so Fitz does make it back without incident. He's traveling through the keep and he's passing by all the familiar, the kitchens and the guard rooms, and he wishes he could go into the guard room with those people and have a simple meal in a place that he knows, but he has to keep going to play roles.
He knows it's going to be a foul night. Darkness is coming.
It's freezing cold. It's not going to be great. I mean, he smells yummy food, but it is what it is. And he gets back to Lord Golden's rooms and Lord Golden isn't there. And he does remember that Lord Golden had said that he would be playing games with some of the Queen's people.
Yep.
And to find him there. So before he does that, he goes into his own rooms and he finds a note that just says up on it.
So he goes to Chade's tower and there was no one there, but on my chair waited a set of warm clothing and a green cloak of heavy wool with an overlarge hood. The outside bore the otter badge, unfamiliar to me. An unusual feature of the cloak was that it reversed to plain homespun in servant blue. Beside it was a leather travel bag with food and a flask of brandy in it. Beneath it, folded flat, was a leather scroll case. This heap of gear was topped with a note in Chade's hand. Hefum's troop rides out on the highway patrol tonight from the north gate at sunset. Join them and then divert to your own goal. I hope you will not mind missing the Harvest Fest. Return as swiftly as possible, please. And Fitz kind of snorts and laughs to himself because he had forgotten that Harvest Fest was coming up.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, I missed the last 12 or so. What is this one going to be?
Yeah, who cares? One more is not going to matter.
Exactly. Last 15 years, excuse me. So there's some food there, and he decides to trust that Lord Chade has figured out his absence with Lord Golden. And so, regretfully thinking of, again, his delayed meeting with Hap, which, so we kind of get on Fitz as well about being a bad father with Hap in town and stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that kind of duty-wise gets in the way.
Yes. The thing is that yes, but
I know he's not taking advantage of the meetings he does have with Hap.
Right. But also he's not sending notes and being like, hey, I can't make tonight. We'll be back soon. Doing some work. I'll send note when I can come or whatever. He's not communicating with anyone. He just sort of does whatever needs to be done in the moment and then deals with the consequences later.
Yeah.
Which is a way to function, but it's not the best one. He also here, notably, is not going to talk to Lord Golden. He's trusting that Chade has figured out his absence from the court.
Right.
But he also doesn't want to put anything on paper that could incriminate Lord Golden or himself.
Right.
So he just doesn't write a note. And again, that's your friend, dude. Just be like, hey, see you when I see you. I don't know. It's annoying because he could be reaching out to people. He could be opening up more, but he doesn't. That's just Fitz. That's who he is.
That's Fitz.
And that's okay.
Well, he gets ready. He eats and gets ready and heads down, grabs his horse, and sees a few people in those green cloaks gathered together with their hoods up because, again, it's kind of a foul night, and just sits by them waiting for the rest of the troops who slowly filter in because there's one guy who's telling tales.
Yeah, he very noticeably early on gets close to the guy telling the tales.
Yep.
And then just sort of nods along, so it looks like he's meant to be there. He sort of fits in a lot easier.
Right.
And then when the captain comes by, they are off and they are filtered into lines of two, or two lines, I guess.
Yes. I took care to take a place well to the back. Then he led us out of the gate and into the night and storm. For a time, our road led us steeply downward. Then we turned and took the river road that would lead us east along the Buck River. When we had left the lights of Buckkeep far behind us, I began to hold my black in. She was not pleased with the weather or the dark, and was just as glad to go more slowly. At one point, I pulled her in completely and dismounted on the pretext of tightening a cinch. The patrol rode on without me into the cloaking storm. I mounted again and rejoined it, now the last man of the troop. As we traveled, I held my horse back, letting the distance between us and the rest of the troop gradually lengthen. At last, they turn a bend and he's out of sight, and he dismounts again, pretending to fiddle with his stuff again, just in case
Yes.
somebody comes back and says, like, hey, are you okay?
But when nobody notices or turns back, he realizes he's fine. He flips the cloak and he's back the direction he just came.
Yep. And eventually he gets to a ferry area. And he says that even though Chade had bid him to hasten on his journey and come back quickly, there's going to be delays. Like, he has to wait for the ferry, and there's the winds of the storm and the ice that are coating things that slow things down. And then he has a nice little ride out to his cabin.
And this part confuses me. So it takes him several days to get back to his cabin.
Yeah, he rests several times in smaller, nondescript inns along the way.
Yeah. Did it take that long for him to get there the first time?
I feel like it was a several day trip.
Am I maybe just confusing his travels to Civil's house? House is a big word, but
to Galekeep? Yeah. I think so, because that
one's like 2 days.
I think they got there in a full day. They left at like in the morning and then got there like in the evening, I thought. Maybe they rested maybe one time, actually.
Because they had the inn where,
But that might have stopped for food because they were waiting for a ferry.
Yes, they were waiting for the ferry and they got it. Okay, so maybe I'm just confusing those two, but I'm like, that's a lot of days. I feel like it did not take that. I feel like it only took 3 days for him to get there the first time. So maybe that's where I'm like, what is going on? But this is really bad weather. It's snowing, maybe blizzard conditions. So maybe that's part of it. I just feel like it took him not very long to get there the first book.
He has to wait for the dawn ferry first. So he waits all night for this ferry to begin with, and then can start the next day. And then he rests 3 more times. So that's 3 days from that ferry on the Buck River.
Okay. I don't know.
Well, either way, it's kind of uneventful in the ordinary sense, but he kind of sees some growth along the road as well, of like different markets and towns and things like that. He's paying a little bit more attention to things.
Yes. He also has one night where he skill dreams where he is with
Nettle.
Yeah, in Nettle's eyes or in her life.
A warm fireside, the sounds of a family at their evening tasks. Umph. Off my lap, girl. You're far too big to sit on me now. I'll never be too big for my papa's lap. There was laughter in her voice. What are you making? I'm mending your mother's shoe. Or trying to. Here, thread this for me. The firelight makes the needle's eye dance until I cannot find it. Younger eyes will do better. And that was what had awakened me. A sudden wash of dismay that Papa was admitting his sight was failing. I tried not to think of that as I fell back into a guarded sleep.
Also, him calling Burek Papa is interesting.
Well, I mean, it's the lingering of
I know, it is the lingering, but it's just like there's a funny little imagery there.
No one seemed to remark my passage. I had time with my black to improve her manners. We tested each other's wills in any number of small ways. So he finally gets some time to spend with my black.
Yes. It's definitely not going to be enough time overall because horses take more than just 8 days, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a start and he's enjoying that time, it seems.
But it's definitely not pleasant traveling weather. The weather remains foul.
And this is the first big travel he's done by himself without Night Eyes.
Yeah.
Obviously, he had to travel back from the wilderness with the group when they found Dutiful. But this is the first solo adventure he's going on, truly solo, in over a decade.
My own senses and my own sword were all I could rely on for protection. I felt naked and incomplete.
Yes, because there's no wolf to range ahead or go behind to make sure they weren't followed. So that's sad. That's a sad little moment there.
Yeah.
But the sun broke through the clouds on the afternoon when I reached my lane to the cabin. And as he gets to the cabin, he realizes that somebody has been in the cabin because the door is ajar and there's a lump in the snow. And he can see that there's like footprints around, but
Mhm.
mostly they are pig tracks.
And the lane to his cottage was smooth and undisturbed as well.
Yes, yeah. So nobody rode there,
Mhm.
but there are pig tracks, which immediately puts his hackles up because he's wondering, did the piebalds find me? Are they in here still? What's happening? And then he's trying to put his finger on why it's so unsettling that he's standing outside his cabin with the door ajar, knowing somebody's in there. And he realizes that this is deja vu because when he was coming back to himself after being Wolfman
In Assassin's
in
Quest, yeah.
Assassin's Quest, the forged ones had broken into his cabin
Yeah.
in a very similar fashion.
Hmm.
And he realizes that nobody is in there. He doesn't sense anything. And this time he can trust it because there's not any danger of forged people being in here that he knows of. So he goes in and he decides that he knows exactly who has been running through his things.
Yeah. So there's a lot of his possessions out in the yard too, kind of covered by snow, either scrolls or furniture and things like that. And he's pretty sure that his neighbor is
Yeah.
the one who had the pigs in the market that he got mad at, is the one who came and kind of went through everything.
Several curious animals had investigated the cabin. There were muddy boot tracks as well, a crisscrossing passage that indicated someone had made many trips in and out. Everything portable and useful had been taken. The blankets from the beds, the smoked and preserved foods from the rafters, the pots from the cooking hearth, all were gone. Some scrolls had been used to kindle a fire in the hearth. Someone had eaten here, probably enjoying the supplies Hap and I had laid in for the winter. There was a scatter of fish bones still on the hearth. I felt I knew who had come here. The pig tracks were my best clue. My desk still remained. My unlettered neighbor would have little use for a writing desk. And that's who he thinks it is. It's
Yeah.
the guy he fought with. And
Which makes sense,
Yeah.
because Fitz goes on to say that like all his ink pots and stuff like there were overset, scrolls open and then tossed aside, which gives him concern. In the current disorder, he can't tell if anything else was taken or if anybody else had come.
yes.
But since like everything else was taken, but not a lot of the scrolls, it's
Mhm.
probably not anyone besides his neighbor. And he
Yeah.
had told Hap to bring the chickens over to his neighbor before he left because he would obviously take care of the chickens, but that
Because
also
he'd get
gave
something out of it.
right. But that also gave him the clue that they were going to be gone for an extended period of time.
Right. So, not a great guy. Not that any of us are surprised, I think.
Right.
But notably, he's really worried when he sees the disarray by his writing desk and is relieved to find that Verity's map is somehow untouched on the wall where it was hung.
Right.
And so he immediately rolls that up and puts it in a scroll case.
Yeah.
Because he just can't. That's obviously very important and he does not want to leave that. And then he begins going through what he has. So he goes first out into the yard to sort of make sure he gets all of the papers that he saw out there. And he keeps looking until he's satisfied that he has got every single piece of paper that's outside.
Right.
And then once he has that, he starts going through and he does a culling where he's throwing away things that are not important. And he's deciding what is important because he only has a limited amount he can carry with him. So he's trying to throw away the stuff that got damaged by the snow. Some of it has to stay because it's good, but he's throwing away the things on herbs with the delicate pictures drawn by them. He's throwing that in the fire.
He's also going through his other possessions as well.
Yes.
He says here, probably he, meaning the neighbor, intended to come back with a cart for them, meaning the ones that are in the yard. I'd burn them. I knocked some snow off the heap, gazed regretfully on the charging buck that the fool had carved into my table for me, and then goes into the cabin to start the fire. So he starts the fire before he starts culling all of these things, and the scrolls that he's culling, he throws into the fire immediately. So he's not just kind of like, I'll throw those or get rid of them later. It's I'll immediately burn the ones that I'm not taking, and I will burn all of the furniture that has anything personal on them as well.
Yes. And anything that his neighbor would have wanted just to be petty. He also goes through and takes things that are haps that and he's much more kinder to the objects that Hap might find value in, and makes a little sack of those to bring back with him, like a top that Hap hasn't played with in years, but
He doesn't
might.
know if there's any meaning to it or not.
Yeah. So anything that could possibly mean something to Hap is getting saved. He does try to talk himself out of being too upset, because he knows that even if his neighbor hadn't taken all the stuff, he wasn't going to bring his tool set. He has no use for a rake in Buckkeep.
He's still upset by the theft.
But it's more the principle of the thing than
Yeah.
it is the objects themselves. And yeah, so he's not happy. But then he also, as he's going through and culling these records, is having a hard time because some of them were burnt already and they were thrown out. He's having a hard time knowing, were there any missing? What is missing? Did somebody take them? Or am I just remembering a small snippet in a larger writing that I already have or have burnt myself?
Right. He says that he keeps the writing on the skill and the wit and the lengthy account of the journey through the Mountain Kingdom. But he also says, as you mentioned, that like his time with Black Rolf and learning the wit, he's sure he wrote something down about that, but he's not sure if it was scattered throughout different scrolls or if there was one dedicated scroll to it, because he did not see it this time.
Right. And he thinks he's being pretty ruthless. I mean, he also has poetry that he wrote about Molly that goes into the fire. There's musings on his own life, and he cringes to read it. And he wonders who he had been when he wrote some of these. It's just a moment where he's sort of like trying to go through and take what he can. And whenever he feels like he's been brutal, he still can't close the case. So he has to do it again and go back through the pile that is now smaller pile and get rid of more. And he keeps reminding himself that he knows all of this information. And if it is very important, he can rewrite it.
Right.
But
yeah.
most of the stuff that gets saved, like I would say a portion of it isn't things that he wrote at all. They're really old scrolls that are worth something that he got given to him by Starling via Chade. Or
yep,
Chade
he
via
says
Starling.
that first. I chose first to save those I had not written myself. Verity's map went into the case, of course, and was soon joined by scrolls I had acquired in my travels, and some brought to me by Starling. A few of these were quite old and rare. I was grateful to find them intact, and resolved to make copies of them when I returned to Buckkeep. But aside from those, his culling was fierce.
Yes. So he does do his own, but he can recreate whatever it was that he made before,
Right.
and he knows that, and so that helps with this process. It does make me sad to know that his like delicate workings of the drawings of all the different plants is gone forever, and I don't know, sad stuff.
He goes back out into the yard and flips the burning ends of the furniture back into the fire, so everything burns, not just the main parts. And he says the charging buck was scorched to obliteration.
And very noticeably, he decides not to burn down the entire cabin because he feels as though it was there for him when he needed it, and maybe this new empty cabin will be there for someone else when they need it.
I had left intact no personal article of my own. My presence here was erased. So again, that kind of echo of what we had with him standing in Byrric's old home in the stables.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot happening. There's a lot of Fitz having to give up a home that it was his home, but he doesn't really talk about it as home while he's there. I mean, it's his cabin for sure, but I don't really think that he's calling it home the way he's accidentally done for Buckkeep.
No, yeah, he says here the rest of it mattered little, meaning like all the stuff that was left that he hadn't burned. I walked again through the little cabin that had been my home for so many years. So it's already past tense for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of accepted that Buckkeep is where he's staying for now.
Yeah. And that is a big departure because before it was home and like
With
even
Night Eyes, that was their plan, right?
yeah, to come back, and now it's not home because Night Eyes isn't there.
Yeah.
Which is sad. But yeah, and so it is sort of a moment of sadness because there is that loss of the cabin in this place for Fitz, but ultimately it's for the greater good because it's
Right.
protecting the Farseers, right? And so he
Mhm.
has to do it. He has to make sure his trace is gone.
So we have the last scene of Fitz loading up my black with Hap's possessions and the scroll case. And he says the last items I included were 2 tightly stoppered pots, one of ground elf bark and the other of carry me. Then I mounted and rode away from that piece of my life.
Crazy,
We bring
crazy
some more
choices.
drugs.
Yeah. Why, Fitz? Why would you do that?
Just in case.
And I think it, once again, because we've talked about whether or not Fitz is addicted to elf bark and like what that means, I feel like this is another point in the direction he probably is. Like, yes, he's not been using it for a few months, but clearly he has the opportunity. He's taking it with him.
Right.
He's still
yeah.
crazed that every time he uses the skill, he still wants it. I don't know.
There's also, we have to talk about that epigraph that we had a few chapters ago, maybe at the end of last, was it the epilogue of last book, where he's standing and all of his scrolls are scattered around and it's talking about this scene here. And the way
Yeah.
it's written is that the piebalds went and ransacked his cabin, right?
Yes.
And this one, we find out because of that scene, we have some tension about who went through it. Through his cabin, but we find out it's just his neighbor, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. But he did think that for a minute. So
Yeah, definitely.
it's a creative use. I do also want to point out with all the epigraphs, because Fitz specifically is like, I know I wrote about Black Rolf, but I don't know like where it could possibly be. Apparently that is one of the things that gets saved because we do get a snippet of it in one of the epigraphs.
Is it personal too? Because
yes, because he talks about I don't remember. I'd have to look at my list, but there's the Tales of the Old Blood by Badgerlock, Tom
right.
Badgerlock.
Yeah, because he says he mentions he saves some old blood or his wit scrolls and his skill scrolls.
Yes.
However, he doesn't know if he wrote about his or saved the personal time with Black Ralph and Holly. So I don't know if
that's fair.
If any of the epigraphs mention those names or if they do the typical like leaning into his personal.
You're right. Maybe I'm mixing up the fact that I know that Tales of the Old Blood comes up a few times the first book.
Right.
And whenever he tells Beloved the full story of what happened.
And if they were all included on there, all of those epigraph stories were included in the scrolls that either got damaged or burned or the neighbor used for his cook fire or whatever, he could have rewritten them as well.
True.
Those specific stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. It's an interesting chapter because it jumps all over. We get a lot of different scenes. We spend a lot of time with Jinna, some time with Laurel from last episode.
Yeah, it happened.
And then this last part of it is just kind of a journey through the countryside and then a reflection on everything that he's lost.
Yeah. Definitely
melancholic.
Melancholic is a good way to describe it. It's
ran a gamut of emotions here. We got some intrigue and got a lot of embarrassment.
Yeah.
Got some anger and disappointment. And then just sadness.
Yeah. Typical.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, I would say he's happy though. He's got elf bark again.
True. There is happiness in that, I think. And probably relief, and at the very least, in making sure that this cabin can't come back to haunt him.
Yes, 100%.
So
100%.
I don't know.
It's a chapter. I don't know if it's not my least favorite or anything.
No.
And it's not gonna be at the top. So it's just it's a chapter. You know, it moves the plot along.
Yeah. That's fair.
I learn a little bit more about the piebalds in the first half of it, which is interesting.
I would agree. I think that's one of the most interesting points. I think there's a lot of things that I find interesting. Obviously, I say that word a million times an episode, but Yeah, we learn a lot. I don't know. Lots to dissect.
Right, yes. Thank you for tuning in and following along. If you have thoughts on the chapter, please let us know. If you have thoughts on Emma's reaction to the beginning of this episode,
I'm so
please let
sorry.
us know.
And listen, you know what? It's natural and it happens. I don't want to have to read about it. Not on a podcast, at least.
Please let us know. It is fitzhappy@gmail.com. Or you can message us or comment on any of our posts on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, YouTube, Reddit. You can find us at Is Fitz Happy at all of those.
We love hearing from you.